Welcome back. You are watching Capital Connection, and of course, we are discussing all the issues leading up to the election. Faisal, before the break, you had two different opinions. Rana Saab pointed out, rather questioned that how in haste the trial of the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was conducted. But Tahir Saab pointed out that Nawaz Sharif in the past was beneficiary of this system. What is your view? Do you think that the trial against Nawaz Sharif was fair?
The difference was that it was against another political party from another political party. Over here, the general perception is, I mean, you look at the social media, you look at the newspapers, you look at what the analysts are saying, you talk to anybody generally. I mean, people have a lot of political awareness these days in Pakistan. And I'll just tell you about one cartoon that, on one side, it was shown, they didn't show the faces, but there was this cartoon that it was the military, on the other it was the judiciary, and right in the middle was Imran Khan without the legs, so they were holding him and taking, this is the general concept. This is what the narrative of the PMLN is, though they don't say it openly, but this is what they mean.
And I think Nawaz Sharif has been saying it openly.
He's been saying it. Now he'll be more vocal, I guess, in the coming days. Let's see how it proceeds, but this is it. This is how it looks.
No, I mean, coming back to my original question, do you think that his case has not been treated fairly?
It's very obvious, can't you tell? I mean, look at the way. The NAB courts proceeded, or otherwise the way the result came out and everything, and then the way that he was caught. I mean, listen to me. He was the former Prime Minister, and I've got no concern whatsoever with PMLN. I mean, they haven't performed well. I mean, just look at the current situation. People are not only blaming XYZ for a certain level of corruption, but generally they haven't done much. I mean, those projects were not supposed to even look at. I mean,
no,
they finished. What I'm saying is now coming back to your point.
His case has been dealt with. We are not talking about the issues or the performance of the previous
government. It seemed like a speedy court. We used to have speedy courts, like, quick, get the job done and off.
But where is the money trail? Just a very simple question to both of our panelists. That where is the money
trail? No, I totally agree with you on that. I mean, he couldn't provide. He couldn't provide
even any. Judge was wondering that, okay, there is no money trail, but where is the corruption trail? The judge couldn't find out the corruption trail.
Even judge has acquitted Nawaz Sharif.
What about that?
That is the specific cause.
Qatari letter and other kinds of stuffs, and the transactions between grandfather and grandsons and the age of the children. So there are certain grey areas. Things are not black and white in this case. Obviously, no. And Rana Saab is right that the specific evidence is yet to be seen. But even Nawaz Sharif hired top most lawyers in Pakistan, and they failed to get him relief in these courts. And now,
but you also have to agree that the entire proceeding was very predictable. Everyone knew that the judgment would come before the elections, and he would be convicted. Do you think that our courts should be that much predictable?
I'm sure all of us must have read the judgment now. By now, I have read it, and I've gone through it in details. I haven't come across a single evidence that the prosecution produced on the basis of which the conviction was made. Conviction was made on the basis of presumptions, because you have not been able to justify where you got these properties. But the basic question that what were your means was not asked. I mean, if I buy something, if I buy a cup, the first thing, if you want to disapprove me, is to tell me or find out what are my means. You don't go in that direction. You simply say that since you have a cup and you fail to produce the receipt for it, so you are convicted. And this is like a traffic, signal violation, and you cannot produce the book, although you have the book at home. The thing is that I'm not going into the merits, and again, to clarify with Aisa, into the merits, history will judge it, merits or demerits of Nawaz Sharif case. What I was referring to, fortunately or unfortunately, for people like him and for people like me, those who have been part of political struggles, the philosophy that PMLN or Nawaz Sharif is espousing these days is standing firm behind. He is nobody. It is the philosophy. Do we like that philosophy or not? Has Pakistan done any remarkable achievement in past 70 years, given what he was referring to, the polarization, the imbalance in the state structure? Are we to continue with that? Or do we want to dispense with it and want to start afresh and act like a democrat, and where the constitution is supreme? The constitution makes the parliament holds the parliament supreme, right? Are we going towards that or not? And if Mr. A, Sharif, or Mr. B, Bilawal, or Mr. C, whosoever is saying, I think we should support that. That is the narrative which is important.
But the problem here is that when these people were in power, for example, when Nawaz Sharif was in power, how many times he went to the parliament? How many times?
Yeah.
Now, that's the real problem, that when they were in office, they never give that
You
kind
mean
of
if he
respect.
had gone to the parliament, this would have been avoided? Gilani was the most regular attendant of the parliament and he was dismissed on frivolous charges, baseless.
No, but the problem is that you can't really exonerate Nawaz Sharif that since the judgment was weak, because he could have done it much better. He had the opportunity to go to the parliament and clear his name. He could have constituted the parliamentary committee, but he didn't do so because he never expected that he would, face
That's
this
why
kind of a
he's
problem.
in jail. I mean, obviously he made mistakes. So there's no doubt about it. But we are talking about political philosophy, and let's not get into these,
Okay.
someone may have a bias, someone may not have a bias. But the overall, what we started off with the election process, I think this election reflects two principles, two narratives. And the decision will come on the basis of those narratives. The forces of status quo and the forces who want to break this status quo. Those forces who want to break the status quo, you can't dismiss them because they had been part of status quo. Let's focus what they are saying now. And the forces who are now promoting status quo, but they had been in the past against status quo. So let us focus at the current.
But this is very interesting
But that's
point,
how it
because
was, that's how it is,
Imran
and
Khan,
that's
Imran
how-
Khan believes that he is actually fighting against the status quo, and he believes that Bhuttos, Zardaris, and Sharifs were actually the forces of status quo.
Aren't they? I mean,
And he also says that
I mean-
these people were brought up by a certain force, and now people are accusing him of being.
No, the question, of course, that the people have to decide that who is actually right. I mean, this is also actually a war of perception as well.
as you stated in your introduction, that this is going to be the most interesting election because nobody knows exactly. I mean, you have to ask, for example, if you ask somebody who has a slight tilt towards PTI for that matter, they would say, they will win around 100, 110 seats. That's what most of the analysts also say. At the same time, when you talk about PMLN, I believe that since he is there in the jail, there is a lot of public sympathy with him now. And that is also going to change the result at a certain level. I mean, this is going to be a very interesting election. I mean, let's suppose if generally Imran Khan wins, people will say, see, somebody supported him, he's got, now he's got the power and he's in the main scene. For example, let's suppose if there's a hung government, what kind of a situation will develop at that time? Things are pretty fluid right now, I guess.
And I think that's
I tell you one thing just to add.
Yes.
It is not about a victory in election, honestly. It is not about victory in election. Whosoever wins, will he be able to govern this state the way it has been governed in past 70 years? That is a critical
don't you
question.
think there will be
That is
dharnas
a
from PMLN?
And I would like to hear what Tahir's views on it.
Because
I mean, Imran may win, but will he be able
because
to deliver?
Nawaz Sharif now presents himself as someone who is following a certain ideology. And of course, many critics doubt that a person like Nawaz Sharif cannot be ideological. What is your view? Do you think that he is really trying to break the forces of status
The
quo?
point which Rana Sahab is referring to, civil-military divide or civil-military imbalance, is one of the major issues in Pakistan's polity. If we look at 1988, from 1988 till 2018, every Prime Minister, whether it was Zafrullah Jamali or Junejo, set aside Nawaz Sharif or Benazir, they also highlighted that this is a major issue. So how any government, whether it is Imran or other, will handle this, and there are grave challenges to the state. This is one thing. But on the other hand, look at the transitionary model of strengthening democracies in rest of the world, in Turkey and other. So in societies where there are transitions, the delivery of democracy or these political elites should have been better. There is no denying in the fact that both People's Party and PMLN, their delivery was not up to the mark. There was no upward social mobility. For example, look at the allocation of reserve seats to women. There is no contest, but all was, if you look at the list of PMLN and other parties, it's friends and family package. Bhabis, sisters, daughter-in-laws, they will represent the women of Pakistan in the parliament. Similarly, in Senate, the ideological narrative of Nawaz Sharif, which was referred by Rana Saab, who will represent? The Rana Maqbool, retired police and counter specialist, or Raja Zafrullah or others. So you don't have team like that to represent. Look at the candidates fielded by various political parties. So I see, and especially local bodies, is one of the basic nurseries of politics where urban leadership is created.
But the PMLN certainly
But
has a strong
neither-
defense. They say that
neither
they were never allowed to work because you know that after
Not just
getting
PMLN.
elected
Not
after
the-
2013,
He knows
you
that
had major crisis.
Gilani Sahab
2014.
also said that. Many other.
I think we have to go for a break here, and after the break we will continue our discussion, because this is also very important point, that what are the issues that actually here are dominating this election campaign. So stay with us.